And we're like, I guess we'll just find a place to live and we'll just crash on our friend's couch, And
it's amazing you guys are able to go with the flow so much.
yeah, I think it's because when my wife and I got married, we were in the band. I was in the band, and the whole band lived together. There's 6 of us in one house in Chicago, and we all lived together. So like my newlywed experience, my first year of marriage, I had 10 by 10 a bedroom. That's all we had, and we shared a bathroom with the other drummer, a single guy, and that was what my wife. I'm telling you, like my wife was like, "That's fine, we'll share this, 2,000 square foot house with 6 people, and we'll share the bathroom with the drummer, and make no money." So that's like, we've been super flexible my whole life. I don't know why we're both that way. I'm sure maybe the way we're raised or, the grace of God, if you want to say, like, we've just always rolled with the punches. And I think that's a huge part of the success I've had over the 10 years. And my wife, I say she's had success too. She's the supporter of everything. And we have I've learned over 10 years, a super high tolerance for risk. And that's been a huge part of the self-employment journey, which we can talk about. But anyway, wow. we moved to Nashville.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I had one project, country project. I had a buddy who was playing bass with like Little Big Town and this would have been years ago. Like Little Big Town was just getting kind of popular, and there's some other country acts. And in Nashville, it's a super tight-knit community, which is one of the reasons why I love it. And everybody knows everybody. And a lot of these famous bands, they play session work when they're off the road. Like they'll just pick up sessions, come basically play the song for you, and then someone comes and sings. And so I took this country song and had basically Little Big Town do everything but sing on it. And then the singer sang it. And I did it at the studio, Hartwell Studios, with a guy named Michael Hughes, who I love and adore. And he was the first person in town to give me a shot at becoming like kind of his go-to mastering guy. And basically after that first session, he and I hit it off because it was his studio and he helped engineer it and had all these connections. And he just kind of said like, "Hey, this was fun, and I do a ton of publishing work, and you're good at like mixing and mastering. Do you want to start doing like work together?" And I said, "Absolutely." So
yeah,
I never quote unquote got a job again. I've been full-time audio for 7 years now. Within my story, it's very interesting. Like I have gotten 2 part-time jobs to keep me humble over the 7 years. Once I started making more money than I ever thought I would, probably 4 years ago, I have driven for Lyft just to remind myself of what it is to have a boss, essentially, even though Lyft's kind of self-employment. And then I have cleaned Airbnbs over the last few months just because I wanted to remind myself that this is what it's like to not do music. And it's something I have to do for my own kind of like pride and ego to tame any success I've had over the last, 10 years, but 7 years in town.
Right, so you don't get jaded.
That's it, man. Anytime I get jaded, I'm like, I need to go do something else. And I just go find these odd jobs. And I don't need the money. Like, I just do it. And that's something that has kept me so clear and grounded and just obsessed with audio. Like 7 years into Nashville, there's so many people I know that are jaded and just think the industry sucks and thinks that it's, there's no money and it's, you wake up every day and you got to mix and you're just cleaning crap up all day with these songs that get sent to you. And, when you ask these people, how'd you feel when you first started? Oh, I loved it. It was so great. And now I hate it. And for me, anytime I start feeling that way every few years or anytime I feel like I quote unquote level up, like, I have to take myself down notches. And I'm not even saying that in that like having a job is shameful. I think having a job is wonderful. There's no shame in work and there's no shame in any sort of job, whether it's cleaning or Lyft or Uber. And like, I'm not speaking down or talking down to anybody who has those jobs, but it's something where for me, most people don't know that about my story. Is like every couple of years, I just pick up like a part-time job to remind me of how much of a blessing it is to wake up and do audio and edit and do fade in and fade outs and write DDP and put in metadata. Like it's not,
yeah, man.
Those are not sexy things, but that's like 30% of my job. So it's like,
wow.
Anytime I get tired of doing these mundane things and I've lost the joy in the mundane, I'm just like, I got to shake it up. I got to change things. And that's, jumping into this podcast. I mean, that's one of the things I've done to keep me super healthy and sane and normal and feeling like, yeah, this is, anytime there's an email or the phone rings, I am pumped. And that keeps me honest. So I started, doing sessions. And basically within that first year being in Nashville, people just started saying, hey, you're really good at mastering. Like, you're really good at this. You're really good at this. And I felt like, oh yeah, I'm really good at this. And I also, within that, one of the interesting things that I've learned in life, I feel like, are some of the things that come so naturally to us, we often discount and think it's not very special because it's so easy for us. And that is one of the things for me now. I look for people when they're like, oh, it's so easy to do. And I'm like, I don't know how you do that. Like my buddy Phil who drums, drumming is just his thing. And I watch what he does and he's like, this isn't very hard. And I'm like, no one else in town can do that. Like you have one of the biggest gigs for a reason. And he thinks it's just something he, just naturally does and it's fine and anybody can do it. But in reality, that's not true. And that's kind of how mastering was. Like I started telling people, I was like, yeah, mastering's like kind of easy. You just do this, this, and this, and I hear this and that. And they're like, I don't hear that. And these are like seasoned engineers and people that, at these studios that I'm just kind of saying like, yeah, you need to change that or I would change that. And this is what this record actually sounds like. And so it was this continual over the next couple of years. And Michael was like, the guy at the studio was a huge person to basically say like, hey, you got to stop being a jack of all trades. You need to delete like everything off your website and just do mastering. Make a new brand, new focus, and you could just like kill this in town. And so I trusted his wisdom because he's been in the industry for like 20 years, really successful. And
would you say that he was like your mentor?
Oh, absolutely. Stage? Absolutely. Yeah.
Like you mentioned to me before we even started that like you've taken on some people as like a mentorship.
Yeah. I mean, I mentor people now, but I mentor people and then I have like 3 mentors.
No, I'm saying
in town still.
It makes sense. Like it comes full circle.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's one of the best things you can do in any profession or in life is, it's like going to a therapist, which I've done that too. And that's wonderful if you find the right one. But, to find a mentor who is not insecure and not scared like that you might take their job, especially in audio. There's so many insecure guys. Even some of the mastering guys I've shadowed in town, like, I won't mention names, but it's, if the client, you do an A/B, we've done like an A/B blind test. They pick yours or mine, they get sent 2. The client picks mine. The guy who's done it for 20 years, the 5 Grammys, gets mad and is like, all right, you got to go. Like, you're a threat. So it's like, I've been in those situations where like I've been mentored
crazy.
by people and, they've been amazing teachers and I get it. Like, some people view everybody as competition. I don't view anyone as competition.
Right.
Mainly because I think we all do unique things and there's enough people in this world. I know this for a fact now, 10 years in within music, that you can find 1,000 clients who adore exactly what you do and only what you do and how you do it. It's just a matter of putting in the time, being super patient, and also being actively like, for me, I've spent 7 years contacting bands and engineers and people that I like their music and basically say like, hey, I love your band or I love your mixes. I want to be your mastering engineer. And it's surprising how many people will not contact people that they actually are a good fit for. There's a lot of people just like cold call or email or spam or, set up auto emails to like everybody and their brother. But for me, I just started focusing on the people in town and different mixers specifically because I was in mastering that I really liked and just started hitting them up over and over and over again until they wanted to hire me. And usually, I'll let you kind of guide from here, but one of my big things like the last 10 years, like secrets, is like all my big breaks have come from being number 2, like getting the second call. Never getting the first call, getting the second call, and those people knowing that, okay, there's this guy named Sam in town. He masters this type of music. He likes to do this. I remember I ran into him at the bar or at coffee or whatever. Here's his card or his contact info. He's, talks to me every 6 months. And my go-to guy's sick. My go-to guy's on vacation. My go-to guy's too expensive. My go-to guy I'm just tired of. My go-to guy is annoying. Let's just send it to Sam. And that is so much of my career in big breaks is guys being like, hey, you're like second in line. Do you want to do this? And I'm like, sure. Like, here I am waiting. Like, I want to do it. And that's like the last 7 years, working with big artists and labels and becoming like I'm a go-to guy for a couple labels in town now. And that has all come from being second, never first. Like never. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's cool. No, that's amazing. Have you been mastering like solely for 7 years now? Like that's been...
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do 90% of my time. I do mixing as well. And that kind of... I originally really wanted to be a mixer. Like that was like the thing I thought, man, I just want to mix. That's why I went to mix with the masters.
Yeah, mix with the masters, yeah.
And I don't know. There was something 7 years ago that mixing was extremely difficult for me and mastering was extremely easy. And that was it. Like people just kept paying me to master and I kept falling in love with it and it just came easier and easier. And I was... What
do you think was the thing that like made you like so natural at mastering? Was it just like the amount of records you consumed?
Yes.
Like,
it was a huge part of it. Like I have a buddy who kind of probably 4 years ago when I was really getting going here, and he said, he was like, and he grew up with me back in Illinois since we were like 10. And he was like, you're the person that we would always ask, like, what's this record? What is this song? Do you remember that song we heard? What is that? And I would know the answer, or I'd be able to like sing it back enough to where it's like, oh yeah, that's it. And I think that's one of the weird gifts I have is I have this catalog of music in my head that most people don't. And I know what records sound like when they're done. And this is one of the weird things. I do listen to music, but I don't listen as much as people would think. Like at the gym, I don't listen to music. In the car, I rarely listen to music. And I'm replaying whatever I want in my head. Like I don't need an iPod or Spotify. Like I hear a song once and it's kind of like stuck in my head top to bottom. And I get almost equally enjoyment of hearing it as not hearing it because it's just in my head. And that's something I learned. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's like practicing. Like, you know, I have practiced bass. I'm a bass player.
Yes.
Like, not even holding a bass, just going through the chords, like, and like mentally doing it.
That's it,
works.
Dude. Yeah. That's the same idea. So that's kind of, I don't know if that's unique, but I have this just large catalog of music in my head of genres, growing up listening to and rap and over the last 10 years. And when you master, you hear so many mixes compared to any other person. You just hear more music than people. So you start to hear that's one of my, selling points for people. Why should I get my music mastered if they're a mixer or producer? And it's like, well, I hear, 10,000 songs a year. You're a producer. You make maybe 50 songs a year if you're busy. Yeah. So you trust you to master or me who's, 10,000 more songs than you a year. And same with the mixer. The mixer's like, oh, I'm a big mixer. I mix an album a month. It's like, yeah, that's great. You're killing it. You know why I shouldn't master is because you literally do like 100 songs a year and I hear 10,000. So it's like,
that's wild.
It's like, I just have way more knowledge of what a finished record sounds like and what a mix sounds like and how to take that mix to the final product. And that's one of the big selling points. And I think for me, when I started thinking about it that way, it was like, oh, this is not an easy sell of like a gimmick, but it's like, oh, I understand now. One of the values I add is that I have listened to so much music and I actually know what a mix sounds like and a finished product sounds like. And that's such a rarity in the industry now, because you do have jack of all trade guys and you have auto mastering that's